So this is what you're working on at the moment?
At the moment I'm working, this is very much preliminary. It's a luxury vehicle for a car company in Asia. And these are some quick concepts. Like I said, preliminary concepts in the vein of the Rolls-Royce or the Bentley. High luxury. And it shows usually I give a 3/4 front view, a 3/4 rear, a profile, just to get the ideas, and then front view, rear view, and we take it from there. And there's another one that is a little class below that. It is high luxury too, but to a lesser degree. And that is a little bit more sporty, as you can see.
And so the ideas are first in your head, or are you thinking by drawing? How's this going? Is this really everything in your head first, or is it by drawing?
Yeah, it works. You know, there's something farting around in your head, you know, and then you put it on paper, basically. And sometimes you hit it, and sometimes you don't hit it. That's just it. These are ideas that they can work with. They usually then, I'm on the contract, and they come back and say, okay, we like to go in this direction rather than that direction, for instance. And then you go much more into details. But that's usually the initial, the first proposals that you do, depending on what the contract asks.
Yeah, Mark, all car enthusiasts know your work, but I guess not so many people know you as a person. So let's talk a little bit about your career and your biography. You grew up in Basel, is that right?
In Basel, yeah, in the Schweiz, in Switzerland, and went to school in Muttenz, actually, and went to school, made my apprenticeship in Basel, and after I graduated, emigrated to the US.
Why did you go to the US?
My big dream was automobile design, and in those days you couldn't do that. You either had to go to Germany or you had to go to Italy or France. I didn't like that option at all, and I was very much impressed in the late 50s of those huge chrome boats that the Americans produced with the big fins reaching to the sky. I was very much impressed by that, and that was my dream, to come over here and
I mean, it sounds easy, but I guess it wasn't that easy. How did you know about the schools, or how did you know about the schools here in the United States? How did you make it here?
I just wanted to do it. I had a brother who lived in LA, and so we lived together for a while at the beginning. And then I went to school. I had a job as a designer in a lighting firm. And then I went to school at night to Art Center College of Design in Pasadena at the time, and I just wanted to do that. I could not do that in Switzerland, but over here I could, and I was very determined to do that. Plus, I also had to prove myself to my father, who didn't have a high opinion of what I was trying to do here. My family goes back to the 16th century, and they were all builders and Dachdeckers, and here I come along and I say, hey Dad, I want to go to art school. And he said, you don't want to get dirty hands, basically, you know. So.
And was it easy to get accepted at the school here in Pasadena?
I'm sorry?
Was it easy to get accepted? I guess you had to you apply for the school, or how was it?
I took some evening courses, and that was quite easy to get in there. You had to have a portfolio at the time, which I did have, and they felt, hey, you know, there is some potential with the guy. So that's what I did, and I enjoyed it very much. At the same time, I had my day job, and yeah, I just loved to do that, which was designing lamps and lighting And I spent a lot of time in Las Vegas to design those lamps for lighting systems for the stages, you know, in the casinos and so on. It was I enjoyed that work as well, but my dream was automobiles, and that's it.
So after school, how did you get into this business of illustrating cars for car magazines?
I always had an eye for future automobiles. Not so much. I do respect classic cars, of course, old timers and so on, but my thing is the future cars, and that to me is much more challenging because of the new materials, new ways of doing things, and that's what I wanted to do. And I was invited by Road and Track magazine, an American magazine, and to come to design what I think would be the next generation, blah blah blah, and obviously the readers liked that, and so it developed into something that more and more magazines were interested in my work. So all in all, over 50 magazines worldwide. I did some work on a regular basis, and I'm considered to be the grandfather of the spy shot, or the El Koenig photos.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Yeah, we do all kind of art stuff. We do exhausts. Wie sagt man? Auspuffrohre. Dekorative Auspuffrohre zum Beispiel. Verschiedene Ausführungen, verschiedene Variationen.
That's interesting, because there was a time when not every, but some manufacturers, they wanted to hide the exhaust. You remember BMW, for example?
Yes, I think almost everybody did that.
Yeah. And now it's really important again.
Yeah, now it is, because it's gone high tech, and this is for a company, an American company. Here, you know, this very well could be an exhaust. And it identifies the automobile. It's an aftermarket product, in other words, a tuning product. But we do a lot of stuff for the tuning industry as well. Some of it's crazy. No?
Well,
Totally crazy. That goes more into the hot rod direction.
the tuning industry is pretty big in the United States.
It is the heart and soul of the automobile. Yeah, people die for it. No, I shouldn't say they die for it, but sometimes hot rod automobiles are more important than your wife or your family or your dog, and that means a lot. What else? Wheels. No, that's not. Yeah, those are wheels. Came up with one of them for sports stand, where these are Kleber decals that you can stick on if you like the San Francisco 49ers, football team, or Manchester United. You plug it on. Well, believe me, Americans are very proud of their team, like Europeans, of course. And then they put that on an automobile, primarily a pickup truck. Another one is denim, which is blue jeans. I call it denim madness, where these are plastic caps that attach to the spokes of the wheel, and it looks a little bit like the Levi's pants. And again, that is more for pickup trucks and the SUVs, the tough stuff, So we do a little bit of everything, including making a hell of a mess.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, then I think everyone who read those magazines like Automotive Sport in Germany, they know your drawings. But I always found that you had really special, sophisticated style. How did you develop your really specific style? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I think I looked at what the school was teaching, and I thought, well, I wanted to do it differently. I do everything differently. Gets me into a lot of trouble too, a lot of hot water. But yeah, I just wanted to do it differently, and I found out people liked that. They liked more specific lines and all, and I cater to that, and I do enjoy the detail work. I also do conceptual work, but the details is, you know, what makes a good design as well. So.
But what tools did you use, or do you use?
I used ink, pens, and the markers. At the time when I started doing it, the ink markers, they became popular. Meanwhile, this thing has all gone out the window like everything else, but I still do a lot of it. I enjoy it, and most of it actually I still do that way. I do work on the computer, but my passion really is still with those ink markers and pen and pencil. And when I was teaching automobile design at Art Center, I know the students, the first thing they wanted to do is just go right on the computer, and I always said, no, the first initial ideas on paper have to be on paper, and to bring out the emotion and all that stuff. I believe very strongly that automotive design should be an emotional thing. It's not designing a refrigerator or a stereo equipment. So, yeah, it's the hand.
Do you think it also trains the eye to do it manually and not on the computer, or does this help?
I believe very much into computers because it really saves a lot of time and a lot of work as well. But the initial thing I strongly feel should be your hand, your eye, your perception, bringing it on paper. That is not easy to do. It's something that you have to acquire over the years. And I think that is probably lacking in a lot of designers where they didn't have that initial hand work. And unfortunately, in some of the products, you can see that you see on the road nowadays.
Mm-hmm. How do you think, can you talk a little bit more about this problem? What's the reason or why the computer is not, if you only use it, the tool that trains your eye or brings you to good results?
Mm-hmm. I think, you know, when you start off with an idea, you in your head you see it three-dimensional. It is a difficult task to put it on paper where it is only two-dimensional, and but the computer, the programs that we have nowadays, they are, oh gee, you don't even recognize them anymore from 5 years ago. It's incredible, and the progress is just incredible, and this is the greatness of it. But I still feel it is what you have in your head here. It should be, you have to express that on paper. And I don't see a computer program today that does that yet. But hey, tomorrow is another day, you know, and I can't wait to see that.
Sometimes I have the impression that the designs are a little bit too much. Could this be due to the use of computers, that everything is possible almost, and that or is it something that's where I'm wrong?
No, you know what? That has to do with fashion, and it has a lot to do with women's fashion, actually. If you look at fashion nowadays, the women's fashion, it's fairly fronts, and it's in many cases it's overdone. And you know, remember, my background also is in fashion design as well. Those two, automobile design and women's fashion, is very much connected with it. It's a fashion, it's a trend. And right now it is to overdo it, and I'm not always very happy about that. I can see that on large automobiles with a lot of lines and cut lines and so on. But on small ones, sometimes it looks very grotesque. And there I have a problem, but you know, that's me. I personally like clean styling, and I know it will come back again.
And sometimes I also think that from some cars look good from a certain angle, like from the side, but if you turn it a little bit, then the lines get a little bit weird and not so good anymore.
That's correct, and that is what I feel a lot of the young new designers, they lack that. There's not time enough for that, for them to really learn that and really appreciate it.
You mentioned fashion as a factor that's influencing the design. Do you see also at the moment the materials, for example, or what other factors do influence the design at the moment? Like, is it also the material, or other things? What are the main influential factors of design?
It's a variety of things. Obviously, materials have a lot to do with it. If you look at the interiors, they have come a long way. The French have always been in the forefront with new materials on the interiors. They always tried to make automobiles more like a living room at home, using textile and different colors. I was always impressed by, let's say, the Twingo. That was a good example. And I just loved that. I loved that. It made you feel like home. And the French, or probably the Europeans more than anybody else, they understood that you're spending more and more time away from home. So you might as well take your interior home in your car. And they're still doing it. It's great. The Italians are doing it too. Going around a little bit, the Germans are different. They like the leather, they like the clean lines, and that's another thing to appreciate as well. And they are only now coming around a little bit, but it's on a different level. But as far as exterior concerns, obviously, the plastic materials have a lot to do. You can do things that you could never do before. Although what I admired, going back to the 50s, you look at the Cadillac 59 with the fins and the chrome, and you look at it and say, how the heck could they build a thing like that when, during that time? And you have to say, wow. You couldn't do that anymore nowadays. Today with plastic you can do it. Or pure polyurethane, whatever, and there are other materials too, Kevlar, of course, composite you can do, but that is still very, very expensive. And also we have new ways of forming steel, aluminum, all those things that we didn't have 20 years ago or 10 years ago. So yeah, it's a combination of everything. As far as interior concerns, yeah, I like to make them more livable. More comfortable, because we do spend more and more time in it.
I was wondering, I had an old car, I had an old car. But that's a different story. But this old car was it had a very, how do you call that, greenhouse. It was very light, a lot of glass. And you had a perfect oversight of the car. Knew exactly where it stops, where it ends. And so nowadays you have cars that you use you have to use cameras, and the rear cameras and things like that, and sometimes I wonder. I understand that aerodynamics is important, but nowadays when cars maximum you can drive 55 miles an hour, even in Germany on the Autobahn. Rarely you have the opportunity to drive 150. So is it still that important, and wouldn't it be more important to make it more livable or more practical again, and more, for example, also the security? Nowadays you have these distance controls and things like that. So do the cars have to be so built like a castle? And could it be that this changes again away from this sleek aerodynamic design to a more, I don't know?
I'm sure it will. Like I said, it's a fashionable thing. It's trendy, and go back 10 years ago or 15 years ago, you had large windows. Right now, if you sit in a Mercedes CLS, for instance, you can't even, it looks neat, but you can't see out. Okay, you just drive carefully. No, I'm just joking, but it'll come back again. I know it will come back, like everything. What comes around goes, what goes around comes around, and it will come back again. What else? Working for. Okay. These are interior design concepts. I do those too. I'm not very. It's not something I want to do very much because I think women are much better in interior design because it has to do with material, has to do with colors, with much more with emotion. And I like to think I'm a little bit limited there. But occasionally I'm asked to do stuff like that as well. What else? Trucks. How about pickup trucks, big trucks? Those are the big ones, the big mothers, the 18-wheelers they're called. And here it's for Kenworth. We've done some work on them. For generation, it's very, very traditional minded. They do have aerodynamic trucks as well. Kenworth, however, is almost like Harley Davidson. They are almost like an American icon, like Coca-Cola, Harley Davidson, what else, like Jeep. And you know, these are the things that we have done and do for them. And then there are some initial sketches for, again, for here in this case, Asian company. Proposal for a Lamborghini Espada.
Would be nice. Yeah. How do you think about that? I think a lot of car enthusiasts would like to see a new Espada.
I would too. Yeah, I would too. You know, Lamborghini obviously is coming up with a four-seater, and it's a nice one. But the Espada is maybe a little more settled. Wie sagt man auf Deutsch? I don't have the word, but anyway, it's a little bit more traditional. But then again, it would not be along the philosophy right now, which is very, you know, very extreme. And the four-seaters that you've seen at the, what was it, the show, is pretty radical. But that's Lamborghini, and that's what they're in the market for.
Another thing, the electric cars. Do you think they have to look different than normal cars, or is it just yeah, doesn't matter?
Electric cars, you know, obviously everybody goes into it because there's this pressure here, this I call it a social pressure, that you have to offer something electric, plug-in, and some of them have done it for quite a while, and some of them less successful, but you have to have a infrastructure with it, and we don't have that yet, especially here in the US, because we are so much married to you know, gasoline, oil, and it takes a long time to do that. Will it be? I don't know. Personally, I think the in-between solution right now is the hybrid, where you have both of them. Electric, a lot of it has to do psychologically as well. We don't feel like, what happened if I run out of juice tomorrow? Okay, with a hybrid, okay, I run out of juice, well then, you know, the gasoline engine kicks in. It gives you more of a security. Electric, it will come up, but I don't think it will be mainstream. I think it's a niche market. And everybody goes into it. Some of them already have gone out of it again because people just don't buy it. And the marketplace is really what determines if something is being accepted or not. Right now, we see what, for instance, Chevy is doing with the Volt or the Opel, and they are not doing very well. As a matter of fact, they stopped production twice in 1 year now. And it's not the automobile, the technology, everything is here. It is the human mind that is very hard to re-educate, more than anything else. So electric automobiles, yeah, they're here to stay probably. I would say probably hydrogen is another option, and good old automobile, gasoline with brand new engines that use half the oil that today's cars do. They already do now that they did 20 years ago. And no, the gasoline engine is not dead yet, not for a long shot. So there will be different segments of the market. And actually this is great. It gives you more freedom. You can choose. Before you couldn't.
You mentioned Opel, and it leads me to the question. Opel has some problems, everybody knows, and GM is not very happy with that. But they, how do you judge their current design?
You know what? I do like Opel. I really do. It's a good alternative to other German makes. I feel they are a little bit more open to different things. Of course, they are influenced, by General Motors. But their product, I like most of their product. I like very much. They also have a problem with their reputation, unfortunately, and I wish that would change, but it doesn't. Now they have the problem with is GM considering should we continue or should we just rename them Chevrolet, or what? They have been losing money now for I don't know how many years. I just wish it would turn around, and I wish primarily Europeans would believe in Opel because it's a good brand. I'm not doing a commercial here, but I always liked Opel actually.
Somehow I have the feeling that maybe just a minor part of the problem, but maybe a problem is also that they changed the the style or the design direction quite often.
Too much. That is true.
And I think also you mentioned Twingo, for example, Renault. They also change direction quite often. And is it something that's, do you consider it as important to have a certain continuity in design to be successful as a brand?
Yes, I do. I do, very much so. Unfortunately, or I shouldn't say unfortunately, but the fact is that nowadays there are different requirements. And we see that with old established marques like Mercedes and BMW or even Fiat, and so they don't have that consistency anymore they used to have. They are very successful if you look at that way. In 50 or 70 years from now, if you look back, you have to say, okay, can we look back like we can look back at the cars, in the 50s and 40s and so on. Don't know, but right now everybody is trying out everything, and I think the pressure comes from Asia, and because they are so much freer, they don't have the tradition that European car companies have, so I think European car companies, they are just somewhat to that.
So you would say they have a problem to find the right spot, for everyone, for global. When you are a global brand, you have to find the right spot, to meet the tastes of as well the Asians, the Americans, and the Europeans.
Well, this whole thing is really being watered down now, because if you look at Ford, they have the program with World Car, where they try to use the same automobiles all over the world. So far, they are quite successful with it. On the long run, I'm not so sure, because we have our characteristic. For instance, German cars, they have always been known for the Bauhaus strategy, which is consistency, solid, and that is going out of style right now. If you look at the latest product from Mercedes and BMW, the French, they had their own. Obviously, the Italian had their own. The Americans had their own. It's all watered down now. But I would say that after a while, the dust will settle, and we go back to not where we were before, but on a different world.
Yeah. How do you see the current design of Audi? That's, yeah, I think more or less the closest to the Bauhaus idea still, and also Volkswagen. The new cars are very clean, very maybe one could also say simple. Some say dull. But how do you see the development of these makes on these brands?
I think Audi, specifically Audi, and VW to a certain degree too, they are very consistent. Audi more so than VW. But I see with the new Golf that is just now coming out, for instance, I see a lot of emotion in it, much more than before. And maybe that has to do with Walter de Silva, who was the chief designer, and he was a good friend of mine, and he brings a little bit of that Latin feeling into it. And actually the new Golf 7 to me is the first Golf that I can say, you know what, I really like that darn thing. It looks good, but it does have a Latin flavor in it, in my opinion at least.
Audi, some say they can't distinguish the different cars from each other. Would you say, yeah, how they are doing design-wise?
Well, this is my job, so yeah, I do know the different cars. I should, otherwise I'm a lousy designer. But the man on the street sometimes doesn't. And yeah, the Einheitsbrei. And they're working on it because everybody's scrambling for sales, you know, for much sales. So yeah, right now everybody is concerned with the aerodynamics and the filler front, but I hope they keep their identity. Some of them do more than others.
BMW, do you think, is it better now than it used to be? I mean, Chris Bangle was very, I guess, influential because a lot of other brands, to a certain extent, imitated his ideas.
That's true. And you know what? This is funny. He brought the love it or hate it to BMW. A lot of people hated it, but a lot of people loved it. And I think he did a good job on it. Did I agree with what he came up with? Not necessarily, but at least he got the blood moving for BMW, and it showed, you know, they were doing very well, obviously. Now it has settled a little bit, and they are again more consistent, and that is, in my opinion, that is much better.
That leads me to the question, which brand do you think has the best design at the moment? Or let's say the last 5 years, and has the best direction at the moment?
Anywhere in the world? You know, it's funny, I do like Kias with Peter Schreier. I'm very much enamored with what Cadillac is doing. It is a love it or hate it type of thing. I like cars like that. In Europe, I have a Fiat Multipla, the racing version, which is the ugliest thing that you could buy at the time, and it reminded me always of like a little baby that is so ugly, but only the mother loves it, you know. And that's why I like that automobile. And you were talking about visibility. That one has 5 acres of glass around it, and the most ideal vehicle in a city because you can see everything. I love that car because of its ugliness. There are other ones I love, but I do not like the new Juke from Nissan. It's just an ugly thing.
Can you describe why you like Cadillac at the moment? What impresses you? The Cadillacs.
The Cadillac, I do like that consistent line. Now they softened it a little bit with the ATS. You could see that, but it was definite. It had definite lines in it, and like I said, hate it or love it. I love it, and I see what coming out in the future. You know, they will have a huge, a big one, top of the line one, really very beautiful. And but it is what it is.
Yeah, it has a lot of edges. I like that too, and that brings you to another company that has a lot of edges and a straight design. That's Lamborghini. Mm-hmm. And how do you think about the design of Lamborghinis?
I like them because they are consistent. They do the weird stuff. They make a statement. Like it, love it, or hate it, whatever. And they are doing pretty darn well. Ferrari, at one time they were making very beautiful automobiles. I would call that during the era of Pininfarina. And then they went a little bit overboard and they lost all the consistency of it. Now they seem to be going back again with the latest product. Quite nice. But for the last 10-15 years, I have a hard time looking at it.
What did you not like about them?
Just some inconsistencies or outright ugliness in some of the stuff, in my opinion. It just was not what you were accustomed to. And I know it's a sports car, and a sports car is not for everybody. I understand that. It's an emotional thing. Now the latest one is quite nice.
How do you judge the design? I mean, it's I guess an emotional thing, but are there any criteria that you have, like a golden ratio, things like that, where you can say, okay, that's all right, that should be okay, and that not? I mean, some objective criteria when a design is good, the car design is good.
Has a lot to do with your own, you know, with your own feelings and emotions and the whole thing. It's very difficult to explain, really. There are some proportions, and you can experiment with them, but yeah, a well-balanced design really doesn't change very much. I mean, yeah, it doesn't change very much. There's a Grundlage, there's a basic proportional thing that should be maintained in order to make a car look pleasant.
What I often find is that sometimes the cars look quite nice, or at least I like them, but the wheels seem to be a little bit not fit to the car. They don't seem to fit to the car. I think wheels are very important for a car. Yes, the size and you know, and sometimes I have also the impression that the guys who are designing the wheels are in another company than the guys that design the body of the car.
True. And that is, again, has to do with fashion as well. Right now, it's chrome wheels and big wheels, like Audi, you know, they have four-wheel drive, quattro, and they want to emphasize that power. And they do that quite well. The proportion of the body with the wheel just clicks, it works well. With others, it doesn't. Yeah. Again, the wheels are just, well, like a nice lady, nicely dressed lady, and she doesn't wear those high heels, and she's not nice, okay? She wears sneakers, you know, Nike sneakers now. It just goes together with the nice dress, and the same thing with automobiles. You're right, absolutely right. The wheels are very, very important. Some more interior stuff. The vehicle that we developed a while ago, a dune buggy, which is basically a plastic body, and it has roll bars that are padded with foam padded. And then you can attach windows to it with clamp devices on the roof to cover it, also with clamps that you put it on, and then you have clamps just like a suitcase in a way, and make it a closed vehicle. and you know, for winter time or for rain. This we made prototypes of it and went through. We showed it at some car company, some car exhibition, which is, I call it the LSV. It's a typical California lifestyle vehicle. Obviously, we are very much connected with the ocean, with the Pacific Ocean, and the outdoors, and you know, that's what it is. What else?
That brings me to another professional or what you're doing. You're also consulting car companies.
Yes, I do.
What are you doing exactly there? How do you consult them?
Actually, at this time, most of the times they come to me, and they want a quick concept vehicle that should be exhibited at the Frankfurt Auto Show or Geneva Auto Show. And if they do that internally, it takes a much more time and obviously much more expensive. So they do go to what they call out of house, not the outhouse, that's something else. And they come to people like me and other people, and they say, hey, we need something boom, boom, boom right now. And you know, come up with a concept car. It used to be that we made them ourselves. And now they want to do it indoors, in-house.
Why that?
That's where they're much faster. Okay, but they want everything, the packaging, everything, they want it ready, just to put it in the computer, and you have machines, you know, carving machines, everything, CAD/CAM, and it goes much faster that way. So yeah, it is express, and I love that. That's okay. I usually have the oversight over the project to a certain degree, and some of it, sometimes in different versions, you see it on the street, or some part of an automobile you see on the street, and that makes me feel good.
Just forgot this question.
You run out of battery.
No, fortunately not.
No, I mean
can you other cars that we see on the street that you had a major influence on? Can you name that, or is it secret?
No, some of it is still confidential because they're not they're under development. Others are going back to Renault and Peugeot. Jeep, did a lot of work for Jeep. We worked for BMW of North America. At the time, we gave all the American input into BMW. The tastes are different. And I think being European and spending a great part of a year in Europe, going back and forth, it gives me I can see the image, the picture of how Europeans think, what their tastes are, and what Americans do. Also the Asian automobiles and their market. I like to think that I do understand that very well. It helps me, obviously, otherwise I would be out of work, and I'm not.
What are you working on at the moment?
At the moment, I'm working for a luxury, not a luxury company, but a company from Asia, and they're going for luxury automobiles. They're going after the likes of Bentley, which is very, very successful, and Rolls-Royce to a certain degree, but the luxury upper crust stuff, and I'm doing that right now. I cannot reveal who it is, but
okay. So people can buy these from your website, or how do you distribute it?
Yes, you can. Which is stehrenbergerdesign.com.
So
and
this is the famous
collection of those, for over MGs, Morgans, Rolls Royces, Jaguars, the whole 9 yards.
So are these your personal favorites also?
I'm sorry?
Are these your personal favorites also?
Yeah, I do like them because as I mentioned before, I'm more into modern automobiles and future automobiles. But this one, I like that. Also, I used watercolor in these things. And then that was before the magic markers or you know, the felt pens. And I tried, with my felt pens, I tried to get the same effect like watercolor, which a lot of people are still fooled by it. They still think it is watercolor or airbrush. And when I tell them, no, it's markers, they would never believe it. So, but yes, I do like the whole collection. I like very much.
Sometimes I ask designers a question that's, do you like Pininfarina better than Bertone, or the other way around?
No, you know what? I like them both for different reasons. Pininfarina, I mentioned that before, has more consistency, has very beautiful automobiles. Bertone has some beautiful automobiles too, but they were more radical in a way. And bahnbrechend, maybe Pininfarina was not like that. And then of course, you know, Ital Design with Giugiaro, they came up with a whole bunch of different things. But they are very nice. Personally, I'm leaning more toward Pininfarina. They are more classic.
Now some questions about the past and the future. The past. Which cars, or what's your favorite car of all times?
You know what? It's funny, I mentioned that multiplier. Maybe you don't understand it, but I just like that car because of its ugliness. I did like the Lancia Flavia. I liked them very much in the 50s. They were very, very beautiful. Pininfarina design. I liked a lot that Pininfarina did. They just had that nice design stuff. And of course I like the 50s, you know, the American cars, the Eldorado or the Coupe de Ville Cadillac with the fins, the rocket fins. Love those.
And who do you think will bring out the next car that you like most?
That I like
Which
most?
brand?
That's a difficult thing here.
Where do you see the potential?
I see the potential of coming from Korea, believe it or not. I was very hopeful at one time for stuff that came out of Japan. So it lacked a little bit. Hopefully they get back to it again. But right now, you see a lot of good stuff coming out of Korea. Obviously, you can see that in Europe and over here. They're very successful. At this very moment, I do very much like the Kia Optima, and it just has everything that I'm looking for. But it's not a classic thing, but for the time right now, I like that.
When do you think the Chinese will bring a car that fascinates you?
They are very hard at it. And you know, they cannot do it the official way, so what they do, they bought up like Volvo, and they bought up Saab. They're buying up companies that are not on good feet, and they come through the back doors. They come into our market, and then they will introduce their own automobiles too when they learn from it. They are one thing about you know, the Asians is that they learn very, very quickly, and they implement it right away. I was a consulting designer for Subaru for 6.5 years, and went 3 or 4 times. I went to Japan, was called to Subaru in Japan, and we would look at 3D models and say, well, what do you think? And I give some advice and all. That okay, well, we meet tomorrow morning again. Tomorrow morning, I go, and all the changes were made. They worked 26 hours a day, and they put 100 people on that thing, and they did exactly what I tell them to do it. Just amazing. That's the way they work.
Maybe last question, the future of car design. Yeah, what's the future of car design?
Future of car design, it won't be anything that it will be flying in the air. Boy, I wouldn't want to be around when they start flying. Could you imagine that? I mean, half of the people don't even know how to drive those automobiles nowadays, you know. But they will be around for a while. They will be, and they will change a great deal. I think they will become part of our being, much more closer. They will be all wired up, you know, for smartphone, for everything. So basically they almost become like another body of ours. And they will be around even with all the public transportation. There's what you mentioned before, that individualism that we don't want to give up. And the automobile gives us a certain degree of that. I understand you're in a jam, you know, traffic jam and all, and here you are with a million other cars, and you get at 5 miles per hour, but it still gives you that individualism. You know, you can break out anytime you want to, and you can't do that with public transportation, but it will be around for a long time. And it will be, like I mentioned before, the gasoline engine will be around for a while. There will be other variations of it, but it will be around. It is the only outward sign that we also can give to other people, to your neighbors. You know, okay, you have a house or you have an apartment, that's fine, but nobody sees what you're doing. But in an automobile, you can say, ah, you know, this guy. And I think this will be around for quite a while.